Hey, what's up everybody? It's your boy Tristan Barracks here, the Digital Storyteller, and I'm super excited that you have joined me for another episode of Cinecut, where we will be talking about my #1 tip for hacking your drone footage. Are you ready? Let's go! Woo! So the #1 tip that I'm going to be sharing with you about hacking your drone footage is not really a tip as much as it is a technique. And this technique is something I use in all of my post-production process when it comes to drone shots. And this technique allows me to get the most dramatic, dynamic, and impactful shots possible. I wanted to give you an extra little tip, and that is when you are shooting with a drone, you should be shooting with ND filters. Essentially, they're sunglasses for your drone's camera. And that allows you to cut down the amount of light that hits the sensor, which allows you to have more control over how your image looks and how your image is exposed. For more information on ND filters, you can click the links that I've provided below. All right, so we're gonna get started in Final Cut Pro 10, version 10.4, which is the current version or the latest version of Final Cut Pro X. All right, so let's jump into our editing program. All right, so I have Final Cut Pro open, and one of the things I wanna do is I wanna find a clip that really gives you an idea of, of what a typical drone shot is, okay? So let's say this right here. This is in front of my house, kind of in my community. I have this drone shot, this epic drone shot going up or actually landing. And one of the things you can notice is you'll notice that the sky is kind of overpowering, and then the actual houses are pretty dark. So one of the things I want to do is I want to keep as much of the dynamic range as possible that I can keep within the drone shot, specifically the sky. I still want to keep that bright sky with definitions in the clouds, but at the same time, I want to see the actual neighborhood. I want to see the ground level. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the clip, and now I have this clip inside here, and we can see how it runs. We'll see how it looks. All right, so it's a nice gradual landing shot, okay? It's 15 seconds long, it's great. So normally what we do is we'll go to our color correction tool and, we'll try and bring down the shadows a bit, bring up the highlights. But as we're bringing up the highlights, as you notice, we're losing the sky. So we're gaining all of this area, the shadowy areas, or the darker areas, but we're losing the light. So what do? Bring up my midtones, but then it brightens the sky again. So if I bring down my midtones, it'll bring the sky down and make the sky look more dynamic, but also brings down all the midtone sections in the housing area, which makes it dark. And then if we bring up our shadows, it kind of loses a little bit of definition and contrast, and we want that punchiness. So this is the technique. So I'm going to expose for this area here, which is our housing area, and I'm going to lift up my tone so I have a little bit of definition, right? So this is how it looks before, this is how it looked after, so I have more definition in the housing area, okay? And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the color so it's not as red. Maybe I'll bring a little blue into it. We're going to duplicate our clip, okay? So we duplicated it. So we have the same exact clip with the same exact color adjustments and color edits. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go to our filters tab. So it's this little button right here. It has a double squares on Final Cut Pro. And we're gonna go to a search bar down at the bottom right hand corner and type in mask. And we're gonna use a gradient mask. For those of you that don't know what a gradient mask is, simply put, a gradient mask basically fades one image on the top to another image that's behind it or beneath it for the bottom. So it's two images together. They're faded in between. The top clip will fade once it gets to the house. So all we're doing is we're going to be locking in and focusing on our sky. That's where the adjustments will be, and that's what the mask will reveal and show. So we're gonna double click on that, and that should add the mask. Now, as you can see, nothing happened. And the reason why nothing happened is because we haven't actually made any adjustments other than adding the mask. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go back to exposure, and we're actually gonna bring down our white tones. And look what happens. So basically what's happening now is we're mixing both corrections together. We brought down the correction of just the top layer, or just the top clip. We brought down the exposure. So, I mean, we can't bring it out too much so it's too dark, but we brought it down to a point where we regained our highlights and regained our sky, so it's not as washed out. But because we used the mask didn't affect the bottom part of the clip, of this top clip, because the bottom part of the top clip is faded out. Okay, this is our St. Lucia clip. Now, as you can see, it was a bright morning. I kind of overexposed because I wanted to get the detail of all of the bushes and the greenery. But in doing so, I overexposed my sky. So I'm going to use the same exact technique. We're gonna go back to our color correction tool, and we're going to expose for the darker parts of our frame, okay? We're not gonna worry about the sky yet. We're just exposing for the darker parts of our frame. Okay, perfect. So we expose for that. Now we're gonna duplicate, right? If you're duplicating on a Mac for Final Cut Pro, you're gonna hold Alt or Option and then click and drag up. Hold Alt, Option, click and drag up, okay? For PC users, I can't really help you. I'm not a PC user, sorry. So once we do that, then we're gonna go to our mask. We're gonna drag or double click on the mask filter and put it onto our top clip. If you put on the bottom clip, it won't work. Okay, so you have to make sure you put on the top clip. Okay, once you put on the top clip, we're gonna go back to our exposure area, and we're going to now adjust for the sky. Okay, so we're adjusting for the sky. Let's see how the sky looked before and after on this clip. So this is before, totally washed out. Now after, we get more clouds. You see that? Look how much clouds we get in here and here. Watch this. Look at that. These clouds, now it's not totally there, but again, it's just that extra little bit that counts, right? As you can see, this is a 4K shot. So I'm just gonna shorten this clip up a little bit, and I am going to do my correction again. So we're gonna go to our correction. We're gonna expose again for the shadows. So I wanna just bring some more dynamic range and dynamics into the water, and maybe add some saturation to the water and change the color a bit. So you see how I'm bringing down my shadows and I'm bringing down my midtones? I want to be able to really give that those really nice dynamics, right? But as I do that, I'm washing out the sky again, and I'm overexposing the highlighted area. So I'm going to duplicate it again, and I am going to add my gradient mask to my top layer again. I'm just going to drag down my highlights, and now look at that. I got my dynamic range. So instead of it looking like this, because I had to expose for the water and I'm losing now details in the clouds, I drag it back down and I get the best of both worlds. This is really, 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 really something that I use all the time. It's a really, really invaluable sort of technique. And if I take my whites and maybe I drag it down off the blue, now I'm creating more of a warmer thing. Not only can it create a warmer sky, I can also saturate it a little bit more, so it gives it more dynamics, right? Okay, so I'm saturating that. And then I can do the reverse to the bottom clip. So if I wanted the water to look, extra blue, let's just say I'm going for a really sort of aqua blue look. Look at that, right? So this is our clip normally, and now this is how it looks now. Now it may need some tweaking here or there, but as you can see, you have a lot more dynamics to the image and to the video clip, more than what you would see here with this flatter sort of shot, right? And that's really the technique. That's the hack. Well, that ends another episode of Cinecut with your host, me, Tristan Barracks. I hope you learned something and you had fun too. Now, if you liked what you watched, please give a thumbs up. And also, if you really like this channel, please subscribe. I would really appreciate that, as well as leave any questions and comments below. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day. Peace.